He seemed to have aged several years in just half a day. The matter had stirred up a huge commotion outside. The little girl lay in the hospital fighting for her life. The family woke up with white hair overnight, and the bully walked free because of a single certificate. People's simple sense of right and wrong had been challenged like never before. Public outrage was rampant, and many claimed they would storm our hospital. I poured a cup of coffee for Officer Ethan. He didn't take it, staring blankly at the table. After a long moment, in a hoarse voice he said, "I let him get away, but I promised the child I'd catch the bad guy. A police officer does what he says. We hooked pinkies to seal it." As he spoke, his shoulders began to tremble. This hot-blooded young man had an endless tide of pain welling up in his eyes. I patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "We didn't set him up. You sent him where he deserved to go. He'll soon understand that the rule of law is humanity's greatest safeguard." He suddenly looked up. "What do you mean?" I pointed at the surveillance feed. "There's a show to watch." Damien slowly came to, clutching his head, and it took him a long moment to muster the strength to get out of bed. This is a very small room. It holds only a bed and a toilet. The walls are covered in moss from years of dampness. The smell must be unpleasant. Damien covered his nose as he stepped into the corridor. The corridor is long, and the light tubes are old and broken. The flickering lights make the hallway even darker and more terrifying. This building is a bit unusual. It originally held many psychiatric patients, but after intense struggles, only 3 people were allowed to stay here. It's like raising poisonous insects. Only 3 insect kings remain. Damien didn't know this history, but instead wandered around with keen interest. Soon, he saw a room lit with pink light. His mind was shaken. He pounced on it like a dog seeing feces. No wonder he was so excited. The whole room was in shades of pink. Pink door frames, pink carpet, pink big bed. A large bed was draped with a white gauze canopy. On the bed were several huge plush toys, and in the middle of the toys lay a person with curving, undulating lines. Long hair covered her face, obscuring her features, but her graceful body rose and fell with even breaths. Damien chuckled lecherously, lust in his eyes. His left hand eagerly undid his belt while his right hand had already reached under the blanket. Officer Ethan sprang to his feet with a sung, "You old bastard." I hurriedly pressed him down, smiling, and told him to wait a little longer. "What are you waiting for?" He was so anxious his face was flushed. "I absolutely won't let history repeat itself." I hadn't yet opened my mouth to explain. Damien's suddenly changed expression had already answered for me. He let out a strange cry and quickly pulled his hand back, as if he'd touched a snake. The person on the bed woke up and turned over to sit up. The metal bed frame gave a painful groan with her movement. She stretched lazily, instantly revealing huge, furry arms. It turned out the graceful curves were not a young girl's delicate body at all, but her overly developed biceps. The pink quilt slid down, revealing her hairy, heavily muscled chest. This was by no means a youthful girl, but a 2-meter-tall, bearded, broad-mouthed strong man whose punch could kill a cow. Just now, Damien must have been startled by his size, 45 jade-like feet. "Who are you?" The burly man noticed the uninvited guest, rubbed his sleepy eyes, and in a voice childishly immature and strikingly incongruous said, "Uncle, are you here to play with me?" "This." Officer Ethan slowed his movements. "His name is Mimi. He suffers from severe schizophrenia," I said. "The primary personality is a girl of about 10, and the alternate personality is a murderous thug." Officer Ethan blinked, and the stunned man stood frozen for a long time, as if unable to process the overwhelming information. Mimi's huge shadow loomed over Damien, causing the latter to open his mouth wide, taking a long time to recover. "Uncle, what's wrong with you?" Mimi reached out with a palm the size of a bamboo fan to grab Damien's sleeve. Damien jolted in fright and shouted, "Get lost! You pervert!" Mimi's sobbing fed Damien's arrogance, making him think the burly man before him was just a paper tiger. He immediately changed his expression, kicked off his shoes, and swung at Mimi's face. "I told you to scare me." Just then, Mimi, who had been crying, suddenly grabbed Damien's wrist. Swift and precise. She squeezed until Damien gritted his teeth, unable to move. When she raised her head again, Mimi's expression changed drastically, though it was still the same face. But the cold, imposing gaze and the wicked, sinister smile were completely different from before. "You dare touch her?" Mimi spoke, her voice entirely unlike before. Damien screamed in pain, begging Mimi over and over to let go. But Mimi ignored him, sneering. One hand clamped Damien's throat, the other grabbed his wrist and yanked hard. Crack! She literally snapped one of Damien's arms. Gah! Officer Ethan almost fell at himself and couldn't help but rub his own arm. "I asked you here because I want you to be an eyewitness." I smiled and pointed at the screen. This man broke into a patient's room, disturbed the patient's rest, caused the patient to have an episode, and was then met with justified defense. That sounds reasonable, right? Officer Ethan understood and showed a wicked grin. In his work notes he wrote, "During the assault on the girl, Damien was fought back against, resulting in a fracture of his right hand." After a pause he added, "The girl stands 2 meters tall and appears to weigh 300 Gene. Meticulous." Beads of sweat the size of peas dotted Damien's forehead, his face ashen, his lips trembling. Mimi grabbed his fingers and leisurely bent them back one by one. "My sister's life is too boring. It's rare someone comes to keep her company," she said. "Keep her entertained properly, or I'll kill you, understand?" Damien's eyes bulged. He writhed in pain. He hurriedly nodded and agreed. Then, the ferocity in Mimi's eyes quickly dissipated, returning to clarity. That harmless little girl was back again. "Uncle!" Mimi pouted. "I'm sorry I was wrong. I shouldn't have scared you." Damien started, scrambled up, knelt, and banged his head on the floor. I'm wrong. Don't play with me anymore. Big brother." "No, big father. You are my real father." Mimi was puzzled. "Uncle, are you playing a game with me?" She brightened in an instant. "Then let's play whack-a-mole." Saying that, she got up and hummed as she climbed back into bed. She tore open the doll's stomach. It wasn't sponge at all, but hidden with all kinds of tools. Hammer, saw, dagger, brazenly a whole arsenal. She quickly picked out a weapon she was satisfied with. It was a giant iron hammer 1.5 meters long and weighing 40 kilograms. Priced by the market at 80 for the big hammer and 40 for the small one. Her strike was at least 800. Whack-a-mole, whack-a-mole. Mimi laughed, lifted the giant hammer, and brought it down on Damien with a swing. Damien peed in terror and rolled aside to dodge. Bang! The floor cracked, and dust from the ceiling sifted down. Even the surveillance footage wobbled a few frames. Someone's killing. Damien unleashed a powerful survival instinct, tumbling and scrambling out the door. Mimi did not stop him. Instead, she covered her eyes and silently counted to 30. When the time was up, she dragged the giant hammer and stepped out the door. "The little mouse is hidden. I'm coming to find you." In the pitch-dark corridor, only Mimi's heavy footsteps remained. Clang, clang. The corridor was dim. Mimi dragged the hammer, strolling through it as if on a leisurely walk. She lazily opened each door one by one. Because previously they were all wards, the furnishings were simple. Just a bed and a cabinet. Aside from the cabinet, Damien had nowhere else to go. It was only a matter of time before they found him. But the problem was there were too many rooms. Opening 1, nothing. Opening 2, nothing. In less than 10 minutes, the child's patience was quickly exhausted. She cupped her hands around her mouth and said in an exaggerated tone, "I can already see you." But Damien, an old hand, wasn't about to be tricked by her. Half a minute passed, and the corridor remained utterly silent. Mimi called several times with no response. She stood helplessly where she was. Tears slowly filled her eyes, and then she lifted her head and sobbed. She stamped her foot and cried, "Brother, brother, my little mouse is gone, brother." A piercing child's voice echoed down the corridor, an indescribable eeriness. Soon, the crying stopped. "Mimi," she said softly, "be good, don't cry. Brother will find it for you right away." She gave a cold little smile, then hoisted the hammer and walked to the next room. He didn't open the cabinet door. He just smashed it with one strike. With a loud bang, wood chips scattered, the cabinet fell to pieces. Brother didn't care at all about whether Damien lived or died. As long as he finds it, it's just a lump of mashed flesh. He can still report back to his sister. There's none in this room. The brother didn't hesitate and immediately walked into the next room. Bang, bang, bang. He seemed to have boundless strength. Smashing several times in a row, his face showed no flush, no panting. Finally, Damien couldn't withstand the growing, looming pressure. He let out a shout, burst out from a room, and ran outward. The older brother had been ready. He casually grabbed a sharp piece of wood and hurled it. PFSH. The wood sank into Damien's lower leg. His knee buckled, and he immediately dropped to the ground, his huge momentum carrying him to roll several times. Ah! Damien clutched his leg and howled. In fact, he had already reached the far right side of the corridor, less than 3 meters from the stairs. The stairway, glowing with a green light, looked like the entrance to heaven, full of temptation. Damien gritted his teeth and crawled over using both his hands and feet. His older brother wasn't anxious. He had all the patience to play with him slowly. He grabbed a wooden stick, twisted it with one hand, and under his immense grip, the stick immediately splintered apart. He used those sharp wooden shards like throwing darts, flinging them all outward. Swoosh, swoosh. The wooden slats sliced through the air with a whistling scream, piercing precisely into Damien's crotch. Ah! Damien broke into a sweat from the pain, his eyes bulging as if they were about to pop out. He rolled on the ground, but those wooden slats, as if they had grown eyes, raced forward and plunged into his crotch. Both being men, Officer Ethan and I couldn't help but clench our crotches. Do you think when he pees, it'll be like a shower? Officer Ethan's imagination was wild. I immediately pictured the scene in my head and couldn't help laughing out loud. Run! My brother paced over, stopped in front of Damien, planted his hammer into the ground, and looked him over with amused interest. Want to try running again? Damien collapsed to the ground, like a lump of rotten flesh. The yellow-red liquid soaked through his crotch. He rolled his eyes and breathed faintly. His brother prodded him with a stick and found him almost like a dead insect. Then he laughed and said, "Sister, the mouse has been caught for you. Come play." Then the malice in his eyes faded. Wow, Big Brother is amazing. He found it right away. Mimi, upon appearing, was full of delight. She hoisted the 40-kilogram hammer high. Uncle, the game is about to start. If you can't dodge, you'll die. Death unleashed Damien's potential. He excitedly pointed behind Mimi, stammering. What? Mimi asked, puzzled. "Th, there's someone." Mimi had indeed been fooled. She turned to look back. Seizing the gap, Damien used his last strength to clamber down the stairs. With a thud, he fell from the 3rd floor onto the balcony of a room on the 2nd floor. Brother! Mimi stamped her foot in anger. He tricked me. As soon as my brother appeared, he raised the hammer and chased down the stairs. At that moment, an aged voice rang out in the stairwell. Young man, don't break the rules. Hearing this, my brother indeed stopped what he was doing. He shrugged, voice resigned. Never thought I'd wake you up, you old thing. An old face peered out from the room, eyes first darting to his brother's feet. When he saw he hadn't crossed the red paint line in the hallway, his expression softened considerably. You have extraordinary bones and are a rare martial prodigy. Why not join my sect early, and together we'll achieve the great work of immortality? His brother dropped a remark about insanity and turned to leave. The insane say the insane are insane. There's some truth to it, yet something still feels off. Who is this? Officer Ethan sized up the old man in the tattered divination robe. Master Felix? He was an old gambler, superstitious about the occult. He lost everything and his mind went wrong. He stabbed the winner to death, dissected him in the street, claiming the winner had been harboring little demons in his body, sucking up his luck. So if it turns out this happiness is literal, Officer Ethan said, his mouth twitching. The happy old charlatan circled Damien, sizing him up. The more he looked, the more delighted his expression became. I can see you have extraordinary bones, a prodigy in martial arts. Why not become my disciple? Damien now had his right arm twisted backward, fingers broken, and feces running down his crotch. Wasn't that a horrifying sight? Sure enough, upon hearing this, Damien rolled his eyes. The quack pulled a glossy black pill from his pocket. Take this divine pill, and it will extend your life. As he spoke, he pried Damien's mouth open with one hand and shoved it in. Damien refused to eat, but he really didn't have the strength to resist. 15 minutes later, lying on the ground, Damien suddenly looked up, overjoyed. It really doesn't hurt anymore. How was that possible? A divine pill. The scene before him had already greatly shaken Officer Ethan's simple scientific worldview. I pointed at the table in the corner of the screen. Do you see that? A big bottle of ibuprofen. But his pills are round black pellets, aren't they? And they're glowing. Round because he rolled all the pills together, black from the skin on his feet, and the glow comes from years and years of his relentless picking. Officer Ethan, ugh. Damien was kept in the dark and really believed the charlatan was a god descended from heaven. He immediately sprang up, clung to the charlatan's thigh, and wailed, "Master Felix, save me." The charlatan held his head high, eyes narrowed, putting on an air of profound inscrutability. Enough. Our meeting today is fated. I'll follow heaven's will and take you as my final disciple. Damien was overjoyed, saying nothing as he knocked 3 loud knocks. What a uniquely gifted sycophant. The charlatan was pleased to see Damien so eager and immediately held a master acceptance ceremony. What futile remnants. Officer Ethan sneered as he watched Damien kneel to offer tea to the charlatan. Otherwise, how could they get along so well? I said with a smile. The charlatan stroked Damien's head, his expression turning stern. Damien flinched and asked, "Master, what's wrong?" The charlatan stared at him, and after a long while said solemnly, "I just sent my spirit to Tiananmen and asked Tai by jinxing about your fortune. He told me that you will face a great calamity in the next 2 years. I'm afraid you'll suffer a bloody disaster." I thought to myself, what nonsense. Do you see any good parts left on him? As a result, Damien's intelligence, it seemed, was like his crotch, completely riddled and ruined. He immediately fell apart, his ugly face contorting as he wailed, "Master, you must save me. We are master and disciple. Why so formal?" The charlatan grandly took it upon himself. Stand up first. Your teacher will teach you a set of divine techniques. I guarantee that once you master them, you'll be impervious to blades and bullets. Damien's face flushed with excitement as he clasped his fists and called out, "Please, master, grant me instruction." The charlatan drew a deep breath. "Look closely. This is the first form of the divine technique." He raised both hands above his head, palms facing inward, then kept his lower body still and twisted his waist once to the left and once to the right. This is the second move of divine skill. He clenched his fists, bent his elbows so his arms were parallel to his chest, then straightened his arms 4 times. Watching intently, Officer Ethan asked puzzledly, "Why does this look a bit familiar?" "Nationwide radio calisthenics for primary and middle school students," I said with deep feeling. "I did it when I was a kid, too." Officer Ethan also showed a nostalgic expression. "On my lost youth." Though a fish that slipped through the net of 9-year compulsory education, this set of radio calisthenics might also have stirred up some of Damien's few school memories. He hesitated and said, "Master, I feel like I've seen this move somewhere before." The charlatan glared and spat. "Smooth talker, do you still want to master the divine skill or not?" Damien didn't dare speak further and obediently began to follow along. In the sunless, gloomy building, an old man in a tattered Taoist robe, accompanied by a filthy old bastard covered in blood, dutifully began to perform radio calisthenics. There was a strange, hard-to-describe sense of absent-mindedness. On the 3rd floor, Mimi stood on the balcony watching curiously. "Brother, what are they doing?" Brother closed his eyes. "It's filthy stuff. We don't look." Mimi stubbornly opened her eyes. "No, I want to see." A vigorous, exhilarating round of gymnastics came to an end. The two exhausted men were already drenched in sweat. Master, is it done? Damien panted. Do you feel it? Feel your body getting slightly warm? The faith healer was equally out of breath. Yes, yes. Damien nodded repeatedly. I'm burning up right now, Master. Then it's settled. The charlatan grabbed his hand. This is true chi. You've cultivated true chi. You've completed your training. This simple. I really wasn't wrong about you. You are a once-in-a-century martial prodigy. Damien's face flushed. Could it be that I'm really a genius, Master? True or not, we'll test it and find out. Saying that, the charlatan pulled a 20-centimeter iron nail from his sleeve. Put your hand on the table. Ah, Damien looked at the nail and suddenly lost heart. You don't want to believe your master? I believe. Then put your hand on it. All right, fine. Repeat the incantation after me. Divine shield. Ah, Damien shouted along. Divine shield, ah. PFTH. The iron nail penetrated his palm without any suspense. Ah, the divine skill didn't protect me, Master. The charlatan turned his hand and slapped him. Just chant the divine skill to protect your body. Don't. Okay, Master. Ah. The charlatan, furious and flustered. What are you doing again? Damien aggrieved. It hurts, Master. I can't help it. Useless thing. Damien's blood dripped from the iron nail, and soon a pool of blood formed on the ground. His lips had gone white. Master, is there any more divine pills? I feel like I'm dying. The charlatan took off his shoes, looked at the soles of his feet, and sighed. The ingredients for the divine pill will take some time to mature. Damien understood something and vomited all at once. This isn't right. How could it fail? You were supposed to be impervious to blades and bullets. Where did it go wrong? The charlatan muttered to himself. Damien vomited and had diarrhea. Master, help me stop the bleeding. The charlatan shouted. Don't speak. I'm thinking. Half a minute later, Damien said again, Master, it really hurts. The charlatan jumped up and slapped him, still noisy. Damien cried rivers of tears, but didn't dare to make a sound. Soon, the charlatan suddenly had an idea and slapped his thigh. I know where the problem lies. Where? Your veins are blocked. Your chi isn't flowing, so the divine technique can't protect your body. What do you mean? Face down on the table. Damien did as he was told. The charlatan rolled up his sleeves, flexed his wrist, then let out a loud shout. One hand held the turtle's rear, while the other darted in like lightning. Left, right, forward, back, up, down. He groped wildly for a full 3 minutes. Blood flowed like a river, fecal water splashed everywhere. Damien dared not question it, unable to believe it, unconscious. The charlatan paid no heed to trifles, reckless and relentless. Finally, he pulled out that bloody internal hemorrhoid. It came out, the elixir. The charlatan's face was full of a blissful smile. With the elixir obtained, the great way will be achieved. I'm going to ascend. Damien had lost his hemorrhoids and regained his intelligence. His face was wet with tears. Trembling, he pointed at the charlatan and cursed, Fuck your mother. Then he turned and headed for the first floor, as if he'd made up his mind about something. I thought to myself, lucky Damien didn't have stones, or else they'd have taken him for a relic. After Damien went downstairs, the charlatan only then reacted. He stood on the second floor and shouted excitedly, Hey, where are you going? Damien ignored him. The charlatan, reluctant to let go, said, Can't you stay? Damien blurted out reflexively, I'm not leaving, you support me. The charlatan replied without thinking, I'll cultivate elixirs to support you. Damien, grief turning into a river. You're insane. The first floor belonged to someone else. The charlatan clearly noticed this too and wanted to call out to his obedient disciple. But it was too late. The man had already stepped slowly out of the shadows. A cold, piercing gaze was cast. Even the charlatan, who fancied himself a sage, unconsciously drew his neck in. I just couldn't bear parting with the elixir furnace right in front of me, so I forced myself to speak. Sausage sister, I see your bones are extraordinary. You're a rare. Get lost. All righty. The charlatan slipped away quickly leaving the disabled but determined Damien crawling gloomily on the ground. He clearly hadn't expected that this person could make the charlatan so fearful. What kind of monster would that be? He trembled as he looked up, and when he saw the face, clearly his pupils constricted. It was just a woman in her 40s, dressed appropriately. She was neither as burly as Mimi nor as fanatically crazed as a charlatan. Her slight figure even looked frail and delicate. How could that be? Hot Dog Sausage Sister. Officer Ethan noticed the peculiar nickname. Yeah, we call her Hot Dog Sausage. I explained, because she's the crazy queen. He was stunned for 2 seconds, then reacted, somewhat speechless. You guys are real naming geniuses. How did she get in here? She already had a hereditary mental illness. After her husband cheated, she lived alone with her son. Because her need to control was so strong, her son lived under constant suppression. Later, the son ran off, eloping with a girl. When she found out, she went to the girl's place with a knife. By then, the girl had been a few months pregnant. She slit the girl's belly, tore the fetus apart, saying the son and anything belonging to the son were hers, and no one could take them away. When the police found her, they discovered her son had been dismembered, and his head was cooking in a pot. She told the officers with a calm face that she'd leave once she finished that bowl. She said her son had come out of her womb, and as long as she put him back into her womb, he would belong only to her. Later, the police also found her husband's corpse in their bedroom. He had been built into the wall. For more than 20 years, she had slept facing him as if he had never left. As far as I know, the detectives who handled the case were all veteran criminal investigators who had spent half their lives on the job. Before long, many of them stepped away from frontline work and underwent long periods of psychological counseling before they could barely emerge from shadow. Officer Ethan was stunned. After a long moment, he uttered the classic expletive, "Holy shit." Sausage Sister looked at Damien, who was lying on the ground, her ice-like expression gradually melting, her gaze flowing with water-like tenderness. She called softly, "Son, is that you?" Damien did not dare to answer. Sausage Sister hurried forward and hugged him. "Son, you're finally back. Mom almost thought I'd never find you." Tears fell one by one, the frail figure trembling in the wind like a dying candle. Perhaps it was to find a protector, a woman who could not threaten him. Or maybe it was Sister Ham Sausage's heartfelt showing that made him think there was an opportunity to exploit. Damien brazenly claimed the identity, immediately grabbing Sister Ham Sausage and declaring her as his mother. The hand that hadn't let go began to move again. Seeing the scene, I was so angry I laughed. That piece of scum, the only way he'll behave in this life is if he's hung on a wall. The Ham Sausage Sister wiped away her tears and affectionately patted Damien's head. "Come, let Mommy take a good look. Got fatter, got shorter, uglier, and your hand's broken." Ham Sausage Sister, desperate with motherly love, pulled Damien into her arms again and cried out in a broken voice, "My son, you've been suffering out there." Damien finally found an outlet for his emotions. "They're all bullying me." The two of them cried for a long time. I felt crying without tears was pointless, so I turned on the speakers and played Ham Sausage Sister's favorite song. Only a mother is good in this world. A child with a mother is like a treasure. Thrown in a mother's arms, happiness is never lacking. The light, nimble melody flowed out, perfectly matching the sincere affection of this fake mother and son pair. "Son, come." Sausage Sister tugged Damien toward the kitchen. "Mom made your favorite." There were several dishes on the table, all covered with lids. Although the dishes couldn't be seen, the refined tableware alone suggested the food must be extraordinary. Damien had been put through a long day and was starving. He was about to reach out to take it. "And," Ham Sausage Sister stopped him. "No eating without washing your hands." She pulled Damien up to the sink. "What did Mom teach you? Germs enter through the mouth. You must wash your hands thoroughly." Saying that, she grabbed Damien's chubby hand with one hand and took a vegetable peeler in the other. Damien realized something was wrong, but in his current state, how could he possibly break free? He screamed and shouted, but could only stare as the cold blade slowly drew nearer. First, wash the back of your hand. This joint is where dirt tends to hide the most. Sausage Sister said softly, and the paring knife, following her movement, quickly peeled the skin back from the back of Damien's hand. Aya, why are your knuckles so dirty? So the knuckles received some extra attention. The tendons in his hand were scraped to shreds, and fresh blood stained the sink. Damien's scream shook the heavens and earth, to the point that I had to turn the volume down to protect my hearing. Mimi on the third floor was affected too. She rolled over, covered her ears with a pillow, and went back to sleep. After washing his hands, Damien had lost his skin, but gained palms striped red and white unlike anyone else's. The red was flesh, the white was bone. Everything was clearly visible. I thought it a pity. Sausage Sister should have washed his face. Anyway, this guy is shameless. At this moment, Sausage Sister finally noticed something odd about Damien. She asked with some concern, "What's wrong? Did Mom hurt you?" Damien had been tormented into nothing but a walking corpse. Where was there any thought left? Staring blankly at Sister Ham Sausage, motionless. It's bleeding. Sister Ham Sausage picked up Damien's hand and put in her mouth to suck. It's all Mommy's fault. Then, there's a crisp crack. She bit off a portion of Damien's little finger. Then, right in front of him, she chewed it up and swallowed. Damien was stunned with fear. He looked down at his hand, then at his sister with a mouth full of blood like a sausage, looked at his hand, looked at his sister, over and over. One moment laughing, the next moment crying. It feels as if one no longer knows what year it is. Don't run away anymore, okay? Sausage Sister stroked Damien's cheek and smiled with a mouthful of teeth, or Mommy will eat you. This time the lyrics happened to loop to, "A child with a mother is like a treasure." Darkly humorous. Then Sister Sausage led the puppet-like Damien to the dining table. The mystery was finally revealed. It turned out those dishes were feces and live mice. Eat up, they're all your favorites. Sausage Sister grabbed a fat, squeaking mouse and with a hard yank separated its head from its body. She placed the mouse's head on Damien's plate. Try it. The mouse wasn't completely dead. Its crimson eyes stared at Damien, and it kept squeaking. Ugh! Damien couldn't hold it and emptied his stomach. Eat. Why aren't you eating? Sausage Sister asked curiously. Is it not to your taste? Sausage Sister said anxiously. You don't like the food I cook anymore, do you? Sausage Sister said angrily. That bitch tied up your stomach. You're just like your father. You're no good. Sausage Sister shouted in fury. Eat now or I'll kill you. Sausage Sister grabbed a kitchen knife and hacked it down on the table. Eat. Damien didn't dare resist. Gritting his teeth and steeling himself, he grabbed the rat's head and bit down. He chewed and retched, stomach acid pushing out between his fingers. My good son. Mommy's good son. Sausage Sister wept with joy, holding Damien's neck and said softly, You truly are Mommy's good baby. I was also moved by this tender scene before me. Change the song for them. Listen to Mom. Don't let her get hurt. Suddenly, Damien collapsed face first onto the table. His whole body went rigid. Only his eyes could move. It turned out there was a sedative in the dish. Mom loves you so much. She simply can't lose you again. Sister Ham Sausage produced a syringe and pushed out the air. This contains glue. Mom will turn you into a specimen, so you'll stay with her forever, okay? My good baby, this is bad. Something's going to happen. I was startled and hurried outside. Before leaving, I remembered one important task I hadn't completed. Officer Ethan, don't you think everyone here is talented? They all speak so nicely, and they really love this place? Officer Ethan's mouth twitched. At a time like this, you're still joking? I said, no, not that. Some time ago, we just discharged a patient from here who turned everything outside upside down. Stories about him can be found in the 4th section of Daniel's personal column on Jihu. Click his pinned article on his homepage, and you'll see. This line sounds as stiff as an advertisement, Victor. Tell me about it. I saved Damien just before the injection. The latter knelt before me, raising the only hand he could still move. Please, send me to prison. Let me rot in a cell. Give me life imprisonment. I laughed. I came here to treat your mental illness properly, not to play house with you. Damien cried. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'm not mentally ill. I was just being clever. Could you let me out to go to prison? I'll give you anything you want. I kicked him away and, copying his earlier gesture of scratching his ear, said, Everyone here says they're not mentally ill. My ears are getting callous from hearing it. But don't worry, you won't die. I'll make sure you stay alive. For the next few decades, everything you went through today will only escalate and repeat itself. Welcome to the Madhouse. Damien finally understood there was no hope of being discharged and collapsed to the ground in despair. I hereby announce something. From today on, I looked at Damien's form and chose a more fitting classifier. This lump of flesh will be your new plaything, supplied daily, unlimited usage. Just leave it breathing. No sooner had the words left my mouth than all three people burst into enthusiastic applause. I, too, was swept up by the mood and pulled out my phone to change the song. We're all one loving family. When blessings come, we should share them. Lately, Aaron had been feeling irritable and unsettled. Ever since he learned that Damien had been sent to that hospital, he hadn't been able to sleep soundly. Industry insiders were all painfully reticent about that special sanatorium. Some said it was a special prison, built to hold prisoners the law couldn't touch. Others said it was the entrance to hell. You go in but never come out and die without rebirth. Countless people had looked up the hospital's records, but even the most brilliant hackers all returned empty-handed. Especially Victor's background was even more mysterious. Apart from his name, no one knew where he had come from, why he opened this hospital, or how he had brought those madmen under control. A late winter cold in February, the frost would not melt. Aaron felt a sudden flush of heat and took off his coat early. As soon as he entered the company, dozens of pairs of eyes turned to look at him in unison. Some were sympathetic, some disdainful, some full of schadenfreude. What the hell's going on? Aaron showed no expression on the surface, but his heart was pounding. The answer was revealed quickly. In the office, a man was waiting for him. It was hard to tell his age. He sat upright, his hair neatly styled, and he was in Aaron's seat, looking through documents. Hearing the noise, he turned around. At the moment their eyes met, Aaron got goosebumps all over. Because of the nature of his job, Aaron had come into contact with many psychiatric patients. He had seen countless ferocious looks that would frighten an ordinary person at a glance. He was already immune to it. But today, upon just one look, he was nearly frightened into bolting for the door. Aaron felt like he had been singled out by a venomous snake. Every part of him, inside and out, was seen through by those indifferent eyes. He involuntarily wrapped his clothes tighter, delusionally trying to hide his little thoughts. Victor, the man announced his name. He didn't mention his title or status. This is an absolute kind of confidence. Confidence will not come from those who do not know themselves. Hello, Victor. Aaron reached out his hand. I'm Aaron from the Third Institute. At the previous meeting, Victor ignored Aaron's politeness. He pulled out a sheet of paper and gently placed it in front of him. Did you issue Damien's certificate? So it really was about this. Aaron swallowed. As long as the procedures are legal and the steps correct, no one can find fault with me. So what if it's Victor? Thinking of that, Aaron's heart steadied. Wesley, Charles, Julian, Jasper. Sheets of paper floated onto the desk, silent. Yet to Aaron, they sounded deafening. All the guilty things he'd done over the years were being uprooted one by one. Were these people's certificates also issued by you? Victor's tone was flat, betraying no hint of anger or joy. He used it as a question, but Aaron had no thought of refuting it at all. He gritted his teeth and said, their paperwork is lawful and proper, and they followed the formal procedures. I don't know why Victor suddenly asks about these matters. The words lawful and proper were spoken with emphatic force, but his trembling voice had already betrayed him. Huh. Victor smiled. We both know whether there's something fishy with these people, so let's not beat around the bush. I'm here to make sure Dr. Aaron is prepared to transfer to our hospital for treatment. In the spirit of professional courtesy, I guarantee to give Dr. Aaron the most attentive care. Aaron sprang to his feet. I'm not crazy. Why would I go to your hospital? Victor leaned back, watching his furious face with amused interest. Whispered softly, "Right, you're not, but I can make you be, just like you did." No one would doubt Victor's words. Aaron knew he was finished. A heart that had been hanging finally died.